Evening at the Movies is a proud member of the I Did Not Make These Rankings podcast network. Other shows in the network include Mass Debaters, The Sip List, Crushgasm, Love is Black, Men Are the Prize, Crime Rewind, and Literature Reapers. You can find out all about our shows and more at idnmtrpodcastnetwork.com. Happy listening. You are now entering the world of a movie review. A world full of drama, joy, ridicule, movie spoilers, unpopular opinions, and adult humor for as far as the eye can see. Welcome to An Evening at the Movies.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to. Oh my god! It seriously feels like it's been forever since we've done live. So I'm happy to be back live. Um, Amanda was going to be here, but she may pop in later, depending upon her availability tonight. But I digress. The show must roll on. As you all know, this is An Evening at the Movies, a movie-based podcast where we eat the stale popcorn, we drink the watered-down sodas, and we discuss all of our favorite movies and why we love them. And the weird paradoxical moment that we're having right now is technically we are joined on this episode by somebody who is pre-debuting her debut episode of An Evening at the Movies because her first episode was recorded last week, the week before, and it isn't going to air until like 6 weeks from now. But I am happy to have her back anyway. So technically, we'll just call this her solo debut on An Evening at the Movies. So we are joined tonight by Lisa from the What I Had Heard Was podcast. Also, maybe another variation of said podcast. I will let her introduce herself and say hi and do all the plugs that she wants to do. So, welcome back, Lisa.
Thank you. Yeah, so on Mondays, our episodes of What I Had Heard Was come out at 5 a.m. Eastern on every podcast platform, wherever you can get your podcasts. We just started our YouTube channel. We'll hopefully have some video up there soon. And on Wednesdays at 5 a.m. Eastern, we have our bonus episodes of Tete Fromage. And we have our aliases, Bev and Fran, that are this season talking about celebrity themed charcuterie boards. But our season of What I Had Heard is about celebrity death conspiracies and whether they may or may not still be alive. And if they are deceased and everyone agrees that they're deceased, what circumstances and suspicious circumstances they died under.
Well, as of our recording now, you've already had two of those episodes under your belt, and both of them were insightful episodes to say the least. I enjoyed both of them. So
Well,
it's a great
thanks.
show. I highly recommend all the listeners check it out. I should have waited until after I introduced the movie before I popped that comment up. But so Jeremy obviously ripped the band-aid off for me. We're going to be discussing a movie that some may consider to be a rather pivotal movie in the independent film genre of cinema. Um, Kevin Smith, his directorial debut. We're going to be discussing the original Clerks movie. It was requested by Miss Lisa, and not gonna lie, it felt like it was a movie that definitely needed to get done. So, and I'm happy to put the movie on the schedule and record the episode so that we can get it out there for listeners to listen to. So, nice recommendation, ma'am.
Yeah, it's
Before we get, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, no,
Oh,
no.
no, it's just such an easy movie to watch, isn't it, though? Um,
Oh, very much so. I, well, I mean, we'll get to that when we get to the discussion, but
mhm.
there's just something so wonderfully simplistic about the movie. Again, more details to come. So, uh, so we can get to that discussion though, really quick, as everybody knows we always do. I have some background information for everybody. Um, Clerks released on October 19th, 1994. Like I said, was directed by Kevin Smith. Was released by Miramax Films. Had a $27,575 budget, 230,000 for post production though. It had a box office of $4.4 million. And if you would like to stream it and watch because you haven't seen it, well, for one, if you're watching this and haven't seen it, I don't get you people honestly at this point because I would personally not like to have the movie spoiled. But if that's your cup of tea and you like to have your movie spoiled, we welcome you to stay and listen. Otherwise, please hit pause and go watch the movie and come back. But you can find it on Paramount Plus. So, as Lisa knows from our Lost in Translation discussion, I also like to give all of our guests a chance to um, see if they understand how the movie is received in out in the world and guess what they think the Rotten Tomato score is. So, would you like to wager a guess as to what you think Rotten Tomatoes gave this movie, Lise?
I forgot what the scale was. Is it at up to 10 again? Is it
Uh, 0 to
what's the
100%.
scale? 0 to 100%.
Yeah,
Oh, this is gonna be tough because I don't think it's 75.
missed it by that much. Not by much though. It was actually rated 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
So
Hmm.
um, I could see legitimate reasons why somebody would guess 75% because, well, and again, it's part of the discussion we'll get to here in just a couple seconds. But also, the important part of, well, not necessarily important, but something significant about this movie is also that in 2019, the National Film Registry um, inducted it, or it was inducted into the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. So there's obviously something significant about this movie to get that award thrust upon it. So, um, and again, in case you don't know and you haven't seen the movie, I can sum up the whole entire plot of this movie basically in about two sentences for you. And plain and simple, it's a day in the life of convenience store clerk Dante and video store clerk Rando and all of their friends. Tie it up with a nice bow. There we go. Did I miss anything?
No, and actually it was loosely based on Kevin Smith's actual like day-to-day life because that was the convenience store that he worked in. So he would work it during the day, close it, and then
Mhm.
record all night long. Um, so I don't know if you knew that.
I actually did not until I was putting my notes together for the episode. So that
Mhm.
was a great um, significant note to throw out to everybody as well because I'm not sure how many people actually knew it, but Yeah, Kevin Smith is definitely. I'm not trying to toot my own horn and put me on the same level as Kevin Smith, but I definitely seen enough Kevin Smith stuff, and I've seen, and I know enough stuff that I feel like Kevin Smith is probably my spirit animal because we do a lot of the same things and like a lot of the same stuff. So, I'm not going to complain about the fact. And truth be told, at the end of the day, one of my dream jobs growing up was to work in a video store. So I feel like
Yeah.
I missed my calling with that one, but you know,
Yeah.
oh well, I'm not going to complain. You have Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino that did the rounds for everybody, so um, it is what it is. So, um, so my first question I have, um, what do you personally think makes Clerks such a significant movie?
Well, one of the things is it's in black and white. And one of the reasons for that is that it was cheaper. So it saved them money. But
Mm,
also, uh, in the end, what they were kind of going for was they wanted it to appear as if you were watching it through the well, you were watching the day-to-day operation that was going on uh, through the security camera, which was black and white. So
yeah.
they were it's kind of what like hooks you at first. You're like, wow, this is weird, right? It's all in black and white. But then it's really like the plot, like you said, it's really not a huge plot at all. It's like not, it's very much like not exciting at all. But that's kind of what made it so great. But also just the dry humor all the way throughout, and Randall being like a huge part of that. Um,
Mhm.
that character is just, and then Jay and Silent Bob are introduced for the first time. Obviously, Silent Bob is Kevin Smith, um,
True.
who he was going to actually play Dante, which was loosely based on himself, but in the end, um, didn't and became Silent Bob. So,
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you can't really complain because we've got so much more Jay and Silent Bob stuff
oh
that
yeah,
branched off of just this obvious debut. But I mean, Jay and Silent Bob are pretty much pop up at almost every given moment in anything Kevin Smith has ever directed.
yeah,
So
and they weren't in this a ton, but yet it became two of the most beloved characters from this movie, and then obviously created a lot of spin-off. So it opened him up to so much more content from just
mm,
those two characters from this movie.
yeah, no, it's definitely the launching pad for. Um, I would personally say a very inspirational career. Um, I'm not going to necessarily point fingers at everybody and say you have to love this movie and here's 18 reasons why, or as Jeremy said, 37 reasons why. But that the 37 is a reference to something else, though. But
Yeah.
um, there's definitely Kevin Smith is a very talented filmmaker, no matter how you look at it. Whether you totally 100% love everything he does or whatever, his what he has brought to movies deserves to be um, looked at and spoken about and analyzed and respected because he's done so much. Whether it's the Clerks movies, whether it's Jay and Silent Bob, Mallrats, Dogma. What I mean,
Mm.
we we could go on forever talking about all things Kevin Smith. And truth be told, at the end of the day, I would not be opposed to doing Kevin Smith movies sprinkled throughout the rest of the history of the show because that's how much I love Kevin Smith. I just haven't found people willing enough to come in and sit down and do them. So at the end of the day, maybe my guest would be willing to come back and maybe discuss one or two more with us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, one of the ones that he got a lot of not so good reviews on is Yoga Hosers. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, he's definitely a significant and has had an impact on Hollywood. Um,
Yeah.
not always a positive one or a great one. You know, not everything that somebody creates can be a masterpiece. Sometimes they can be stinkers or kind of eyebrow raising. You know, what the hell did I just sit down and watch? Not to spoil anything, but like the movie I watched last night with Amanda. But tune in on February 10th for my opinion on that movie. Um, Spoiler alert: I'm not giving it to you. I might give it to Lisa off air, but not live on air. I'm not. So, um, let's see. So, other than the stuff that you just brought up about how why it's a significant movie, what about the movie did you absolutely love?
For me, it's really like it's really Randall. It really is. That character and the way that he portrays that character is so effortless, and I know he's not like that in real life. And for someone who wasn't an actor to just jump in and be that good is amazing to me,
Yeah.
and also Jay Muse, right? He was very shy and he had a hard time doing this, but such a natural. And it's he, Kevin Smith was very lucky in that sense that he did have these people that were not actors and they just jumped into this and they were really great, but like Randall kills me throughout this whole movie. Just it this it's just one of the scenes was when he was reading off the list of porno movies, um with the lady and her child. And I guess um, Jeff Anderson refused to read the list in front of the woman or the child. So he actually did that scene separate from the shots back and forth from him reading those movie titles and then the lady and her child, they were shot separately because he just refused.
Well, I mean, I can get it too because well, okay, some of those were kind of sort of tongue in cheek, you know, wink wink porno titles, but some of them went
Yeah.
a little bit too far. And yeah, I no, there no child that young needs to be hearing stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Do you care
generally
if I
don't
read
censor.
off some of them?
Oh, absolutely! If you got the titles, the floor is yours.
Okay. So he starts out, mild, whispers in the wind, to each his own. Put it where it doesn't belong. My pipes need cleaning. All tit fucking. Volume 8. I need your cock, ass worshipping rim jobbers. My cunt and 8 shafts. Come clean. Come gargling naked sluts. Come buns 3. Coming in socks. Come on, Eileen. Huge black cocks with pearly white cum, girls who crave cock, girls who crave cunt, men alone too, the KY connection, that's my favorite. Pink pussy lips and all holes filled with hard cock.
This is the point in the show where I know Jeremy's not watching now because if he was, I would be getting comments from him to post. So, um, I mean,
Yeah.
the first time I watched this movie, and I'm not gonna lie, it prob mm, I probably didn't see it until like 2000, 2001. So
Mhm.
obviously, I was pretty late to the party with you know discovering Kevin Smith and all of that. But at least I was cultured enough to have a friend say, "Hey, you should check this movie out," and then sit down and watch it. I wasn't sure I was going to like it in the beginning, just because it was something that was totally different. But I think this scene, because it happens mm, fairly early
Mhm.
in the movie, was probably one of those first scenes that where I'm like, "Yep, I get this," and I can't necessarily relate per se, but it's one of those scenes that definitely made me laugh out loud because, you know, storyline wise, the mother and the child are sitting literally just right off camera. But at the end of the scene, you to find out that they turned around and walked out when he's like, "Oh yeah, what? By the way, what the hell's the name of that movie?" And the
Yeah.
dead left. It's like, well, yeah, obviously the parents going to take their child and leave, and not subject them to having to hear that laundry list of filth that you read off.
Yeah. The movie she was looking for was called Happy Scrappy Hero Pup.
Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly word for word what it was, but I knew it was
Yeah.
something obviously overly kid friendly and cheesy, like some of those cartoon movies that kids watch are. And nothing against that. My nephew doesn't watch kid friendly stuff like that. My nephew is all about the Jurassic Park.
Okay.
He grew he grew out of his Mickey Mouse phase very early in life. So I proudly will say
So
I am part of the reason for that. But
so I think that this is well, I know that this is one of those movies that no matter how many times you watch it, you notice something you didn't notice the first time around. You watch it and
Mhm.
every time you notice something else or you hear a line you didn't realize was there the first time. There, it's just you just can't watch it enough times. It gets funnier and it's you know the and there's little things like how the amount of times someone asks uh Dante why he smells like shoe polish.
Polish. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is a great freaking movie. It really is, and I swear to God, and I'm not trying to jump ahead to that portion of the show yet either. But I mean, seriously, if there's people listening to us right now that have not watched this movie, I highly recommend you go and watch this movie because it's that significant of a movie. And on top of it,
Mhm.
the storyline continues to evolve because this isn't the only movie in said franchise either. There's a sequel, there's a third movie. I'll leave it open for discussion as to whether or not, you know, you may particularly care for the two sequels or not. But, I've heard people tell me that they think the sequels aren't as good as the original. I've had people that tell me that they think number two is the better of the three movies. People have their own taste and people are entitled to their own opinions. But
It was
um
good in its own way. It's not better, but it was good in its own way. It was just not the same type of movie.
yeah, I'll say that about, one and two. I wasn't necessarily as big of a fan of three. Three just kind of sort of felt. I don't want to say shitty because it is technically Kevin's vision and blah 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 and all of that, but it felt like it was missing something that the first two movies had.
It could have been so much better. It was a little disappointing. Although I still had to watch it because I was looking so forward to it. I was a little disappointed. I still like it, but it's missing something. It's missing some sort of magic that the first two did not have, and it could have been better for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I'm glad you and I are kind of sort of on the same train of thought with that because, and I'm not saying at some point we won't discuss three, or well, I'm almost 100% sure that at least you and I will be sitting down at some point in the future and talking about two. But I'm still definitely open to discussing three as well, just because of the fact that, and maybe going through and watching these movies again, we can sit there and look at it and come up with an understanding of what we each of us feel like is that element that's missing from the third one that makes it different than the originals. I'll say different. I won't say crap because again, it's Kevin's vision, blah 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 blah. But you know, I
Mhm.
digress. So, was there anything about the original movie though that you felt like it missed the mark on, or that you didn't particularly care for?
In the first movie,
Yeah,
no, it's every part of it is just so good, and the what Jeremy had commented in,
yeah,
in the comments, he that's a pretty significant scene. He said 37 guys in a row, and it's the scene where his girlfriend was talking about how many guys she slept with, and they were talking about whether or not blowjobs counted as your number of people you've had sex with. And so they say the word dicks a lot in that scene, and it turns out to be like it's in the end she's had 37 dicks, but not some of them, most of them were blowjobs.
yeah.
But he said it still counts.
Well, I mean, I don't think we need to go too deep into this discussion, but I
No.
mean, as far as relationships go, it's a subject that gets discussed. I would imagine a lot. It has been discussed countless times in relationships I've been in before. But there is, the yin yang. Is it considered or is it not considered? I mean, you know, I don't necessarily think we have to answer that question, but I'm just personally acknowledging the fact that it is a subject matter that people discuss on a regular basis, and I don't necessarily think there is. Well, I think there's a correct answer for it, but it's definitely the answer that you come up with definitely meets the needs of your personal relationship. It doesn't necessarily have to be defined by what I think or what Lisa thinks or,
Yeah.
whoever thinks. Um, so there was actually an interesting scene early on in the movie that I gravitated to because uh, it's about a movie that I absolutely love with all of my heart because it is the second movie I ever saw in the movie theater. well, they're not necessarily discussing that particular, but it's the franchise. But do you think Clerks changes the way that we discuss and look at pop culture? The scene I'm referring to obviously refers to Dante and Randall's discussion that they're having about Empire Strikes Back and
Oh,
Return
okay.
Return of the Jedi. Um, and I think the direction I'm going with is along the lines of this. I think this is about the time Clerks when Clerks came out, where um, nerd culture, for lack of a better term, is becoming a little bit more accepted and not necessarily people aren't necessarily being looked down on because they're nerds and fans of Star Wars or Star Trek or blah 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 whatever. They're people basically Kevin Smith is not being made fun of because Kevin Smith is a nerd. So
So he sold to Kevin Smith is very big into comic books. He actually sold his comic book collection to fund part of this film. And uh, I believe he did something called Comic Book Men, which also was he did some sort of a podcast too with about
mhm.
comic books. But I do know that he's a big like Marvel and DC fan, and usually that translates into those people who, and my boyfriend being one of them, also are huge just in general sci-fi fans, which would be like, things like Star
Mm.
Trek and Star Wars and all things fantasy and superheroes and everything. And you're right, and I think that because or that's so accepted now, that people are just crazy into that stuff. And my entire room right here is covered in Marvel and DC and it's not mine. So
Well,
you
your
know
other half
uh,
has great taste.
yeah. But yeah, it started somewhere. I don't know if it was back this far that it became accepted to be a nerd like that, like you said. Um, but it started, and it's sort of widely accepted. And it's just you're no
If
longer
you're not a
considered nerdy.
yeah, if you're not a nerd now, then you're not cool.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
I agree.
I mean, being a nerd is honestly at this point in time something to be completely proud of, and even shows that spoof on it and make fun of the whole aspect of being a nerd, like Big Bang Theory and whatnot. They s- they're still part of the genre that has helped make being a nerd that accepted, though, because it's just people fall in love with it. It is play yeah. It is completely acceptable to fall in love with something and be a complete fan of it, and you should never have to be ashamed of being a fan of something because it can be stereotyped as being nerdish or geeky or whatever the case may be. I don't care. I am a huge fan of stuff that not everybody's going to be fans of. Some of it we've talked about on the show. Some of it we haven't talked about on the show. Some of it we may talk about on our live episode on February 10th. Some of it we may not.
Mhm.
Um, that's the beauty. That's the beauty and wonder of the show, though, is because the show has grown so much in the last 3 years that I feel, and we've got a big enough listener base that I have grown enough to feel comfortable letting listeners into my personal life, and I don't feel like I'm going to get judged or shamed per se for the things that I know and love. So, I mean, Amanda might judge me for things that I know and love, but that's because the age-old debate between the two of us. Um, Halloween is shit, and Nightmare on Elm Street is better. But I digress. And now that I've said that out there in in the live world for everybody to hear, um, I can expect a phone call later tonight from Amanda yelling at me and telling me that I'm wrong. But um, I think that was
Well,
about the last. Go ahead.
don't you
No.
feel that, like, I think that it shows intelligent being hyper focused on on a particular
Mhm.
subject. It shows intelligence, and intelligence somehow became, well, it was at first, it wasn't cool to be smart or geeky or whatever, but somewhere along the way, being smart became trendy again. you know?
Well, I mean, it. I mean, it goes back to like the whole thing. Like I remember growing up in the '80s, and um, well, you and I grew up roughly about the same time.
Mhm.
Um, where a lot of stuff that we saw growing up was, the stereotypical, falling in love with the jock, falling in love with the cheerleader, blah 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 blah, and then whatever. But then, you know, as we become adults, relationships can tend to evolve and become less superficial and more rooted in substance. And, you know, like the main one of the main premises on, Big Bang Theory, spoiler alert, the fact that Leonard is one of the biggest nerds in the world, but by the end of the whole 12-year run of the show, he ends up marrying the hot, you know, blonde that you would think, 12 years earlier they had no business being together, but, she falls in love with his intelligence and everything else about him that, helped to build that relationship. So at the end of the day, the brain is truly mightier than the bicep. So
Yeah.
my
I thought you
my
were gonna say
lesson.
sword.
Well, no, I figured that could go back down rabbit hole that could be deemed
Yeah.
inappropriate, but we're all about not holding back and censoring ourselves on an evening at the movies. So, um, I mean, anybody who's listened to me and Amanda talk and record together knows good and hell well we're not appropriate by any stretch of the imagination, and we get way, way more inappropriate than Jeremy's little 37 guys in a row comment. So, um, hashtag go check out the sip list and any episode that I'm on where we do sip libs together. Some of those you might have to take a shower after. I'm just saying they get kind of raunchy, but it's fun. Um, Jen, I know has been on the sip list numerous times. Your co-host, you've been on the sip list before, haven't you?
I haven't yet, but we are hoping to be on together. So,
Well, then
Jen
I'm
was
just
going to
gonna
reach
have
out to
to.
Amanda.
Well, then I'm gonna have to help double team Amanda then push for that then because I think both of you on the sip list would have a whole hell of a lot of fun.
Hmm.
So, but this is an evening at the movies, and I'm not going to shamelessly plug her show until we get to the end. So, um, I don't have any more questions on my end. So, would you like to let the listeners know what your overall thought and rating for the movie was?
Oh, well, are we what are we going on a scale of 1 to 10, or
Let's
am
go
I
one to
doing
five. 1 to 5.
1 to 5? Oh,
Yeah.
it's a 5 for me, for sure. I just, like I said, it's just one of those movies that I can watch all the time. Doesn't matter. And sometimes I just get um in the mood to watch it, and I and it's just every time good, every time. Um, and like I said, you notice something you didn't notice the time before, and that's, I think, the making of a really good movie, when you just there's so much in it and so many good moments that you just can't notice it all every time you watch it, no matter how many times you watch it.
Well, and that was part of the reason why, when you suggested the movie too, I yeah, I remember telling you that, I was going to go immediately and watch the movie, but that I was probably going to watch it two or three more times before we watched before we recorded this episode, just because of the fact that
Mhm,
it, like you said, it there's so much greatness in it, and you can't notice it all in just one sit down and watch. I don't care if you've seen it 15, 20 times, you'll probably still be picking up on stuff throughout that you didn't see the first time you watched the movie. So,
mhm,
but I think one of the other, and I touched on it a little bit earlier too, for me, is just how simplistic this movie is. It He achieves so much with this story, but yet it's all very minimal. It's shot at the convenience store. It's shot, at the video store. It's shot, on the roof of the convenience store, you know. And then you have that little brief scene at the beginning where you're at Dante's home. Other than that, I mean, the sets are simple. The storyline is not complicated at all. It's something you don't have to have 150 IQ to completely understand and get behind.
mhm.
It's something it's something like Amanda likes to say where, especially if you've seen it 15, 20, 25 times, it's a movie that you can put on in the background and be kind of sort of watching out of the corner of your eye while you're doing something else. It's also something
Exactly.
that you can sit down and just, you know, focus 100% of your attention on as well and get just as much enjoyment out of it no matter how you watch the movie. I get, Kevin Smith is just, to me, he's an incredible director. He's an amazing writer, and I feel like he doesn't always get the credit that he deserves for the talent that he has. So, yeah, I don't do it very often, but I'm going to definitely second your opinion and go 5 out of 5. And then, I'm going to look forward to you and I sitting down and discussing Clerks too, and seeing just how we feel about that as well. Because, um, definitely 100%, I would like to invite you back to do that subject with us. So hopefully, knock on wood, you'll come back and discuss the sequel with us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I just wanted to say one more thing about why this movie may have been uh, so popular and
Mhm.
resonated with so many people is um, one thing is the customer montages, and the different types of customers, and so many people have worked retail jobs, and it's he hit on every type of customer you'd run into. He did a really good job on that, it's just it was
It,
people who have worked those types of jobs. It's just like
mhm.
that. Wow, that's really what I went through. He did a great job with that, 'cause that was
it
one of
was
the reasons, you
it
know.
was incredibly realistic.
Yeah.
It's it's like the one customer that comes in and he's shaming everybody that's coming in and buying cigarettes. And come to find out he's a sales rep for the gum that he keeps pushing on people that they need to be
Mhm.
chewing instead of smoking, which, uh, you know, obviously smoking bad habit. we don't encourage deviant behavior like that on an evening at the movies. But um, but no, I mean you get the angry customer, you get the you know jerk gum salesman, you get the old pervert.
Hmm.
You literally every kind of customer that you could imagine. You get. I mean, it's a very realistic amalgamation of working in a convenience store, and I think that helps resonate it with
Hmm.
people that have definitely worked in those type of environments, whether it's convenience store, video store, even fast food per se, because you're going to see a lot of variations of a lot of that in each one of those different atmospheres. So definitely hats off to Kevin for that. Yeah, as always, I cannot wrap up an episode obviously without thanking the listeners for being here each and every week, and thank you everybody who may or may not have been listening. This was definitely a lot of fun, and as Lisa knows, she is welcome to come back anytime that she wants. Well, technically, this is the first time I'm offering the invitation, but she will already extended the invitation. She's welcome to come back whenever she wants, because we're in that weird Back to the Future paradox type situation where you know this is the future, but we're in the past, and it is what it is. So, um, would you like to let the listeners know what you and Miss Jen have coming up on what I had heard was and Tete Fromage?
Yeah. So our next episode is on Tupac and Biggie, and then after that we'll be hitting on the 27 Club. Um, and for Tete Fromage, we've already released 2 episodes for our celebrity charcuterie boards, and that has been um, Lionel Richie and Dolly Parton. And next we will have uh, Johnny Depp and John Travolta. And we haven't decided further, but yeah, depending on when this yeah, everyone listens to this. I don't know what episode will be on then, but yeah, we have everything pretty much mapped out. And just look for the 2 episodes that are already out, which are uh, Marilyn Monroe and Elvis.
Yes. And again, like I said earlier, though, if you are listening to this episode, watching on our explosively expanding YouTube channel, I highly recommend you guys check out what I had heard was, and I definitely recommend you check out Tete Fromage. Um, they're great, amazing episodes. They're highly entertaining. Lisa and Jen are incredible hostesses. So please go check out their show and show them all the love and support because they're that damn good. And they are definitely finding a spot in my weekly rotation of podcasts that I listen to. It seems like it's a long list, but they are definitely towards the top of that list. So we will see in a year if they make my Spotify wrapped for 2024. I have a feeling, spoiler alert, they probably will though, because if you listen each and every week, it doesn't take much to crack into somebody's top 10. So, um, again, yeah, like Lisa said though, I'm not 100% sure exactly what date this episode is going to drop. So, technically, then by that standard, I don't know what. Well, I do know what we have coming up because on an evening at the movies because I'm mapped out literally all the way until the first week of June. So, um,
Mm.
I've got. Uh, if you're listening live, this will all be for you. But in February, we have our anniversary episode. We've got month of looking at black cinema coming up. Um, in March, we will start our movies that you should see once in your lifetime series, which that is the portion of coming soon on an evening at the movies that Jen and Lisa make their debut on an evening at the movies because they came on and we discussed Lost in Translation. So that is coming up in March, I believe. Yes. I'm not 100% sure, but I will start because one thing I am trying to do this year on an evening at the movies is, especially when we have new guests, I like to let listeners know a week in advance. So you guys will start to get that follow on social media. Will start to get the updates a week before it's Lisa and Jen's turn to come on and discuss. And that was actually a very fun episode, I will say, and I'm not going to spoil it. But you know, I like having varied opinions on subject matters, and there may or may not have been varied opinions on that movie in that episode. But um, whether or not there was, somebody else made a promise that she was going to watch a movie that is not her cup of tea, and that will also be coming soon on an evening at the movies. So you'll have to listen to the Lost in Translation episode to find out the whole story about that as well. But I know Lisa is very excited for that. Well, what will be her third episode of an evening at the movies now. So yes, definitely follow us on social media. You can follow what I had heard was on social media as well. I will, as always, provide links that I'm provided with so that everybody can follow and stay updated on everything that all of us have coming up because this is a lot of fun and we enjoy being here each and every week for you guys. I'm speaking for I can't necessarily speak for Lisa, but I know as much as she loves recording and doing this stuff, you can't not have a love with, being here and talking with, you know, the audience and giving the audience something to listen to and be entertained by. So, um, Lisa's a great host. Jen's a great hostess. You know, definitely share all the love. And clearly, I'm rambling at this point, but as always, thank you, listeners, for being here. Thank you, Jen. Or not. Why did I say Jen? Oh my God. Um, thank you, Lisa, for being here, even though I boo booed and gave your co host name instead of yours. But blooper alert. Um, but yeah, and as always, again, like I said, last thing before we close, you are definitely welcome to come back anytime you want. Recommend anything you want, and we will put it on the schedule. This is a lot of fun, and I enjoy having you on. And I feel like we have good discussion every time you come on. So, I mean, it's only two times now, but two times
Well,
is
thank you.
two times is more than zero times.
Yeah.
So, but as other than that, though, and you know what? I'm going to go off on a little bit of a minuscule little rant here. I'm getting sick and tired of Amanda not being here and doing her damn job because I should not have to give the closing signature each and every week. So, hashtag Amanda, get your ass back to work because I'm done telling people that we hope you guys have a good week. And we hope you guys all come back for an evening at the movies. Have a good week, guys.